Hi, my name is Duaa-Rahemaah Hunter. I am the statewide organizer for Resident Action Project, aka RAP, a program of Washington Low Income Housing Alliance. We do not own or provide housing, provide direct service, or mediate landlord tenant issues. We refer folks to other organizations that are expert in those issues. What we do is organize and advocate to change public policy so that people in Washington of all race, ethnicity, abilities, genders, and identities can live in safe, accessible, healthy, affordable, and equitable homes. RAP is a statewide network of folks with lived expertise fighting for equitable housing justice so that, like I said, everyone can have safe, affordable place to call home. Together across race and class, we are building leaders and the power to change local, state, and federal policy through storytelling, organizing, and civic engagement. And I want to thank you all for showing up today and rocking with me in rap and being part of our first podcast. So we're going to go do introductions. So when I call on you, I'm going to say how I met you. And then you're going to just give us your name, your organization if part of one, and how long you've been part of rap. So James, since I see you on the camera on the screen, I'll call on you first. So I met James back in 20, was it 20? I started in 21. So in 2022 during our housing and homelessness advocacy days, and we were on Zoom, and he happened to be in the room by himself to meet with his elected official, and me and Mark Caroline were both like we were in the room with him, so we were talking to him, and we kind of volunteered with love and got him to become a rap member. And I do have to thank you for all the skills and talents that you bring. He's a really good public speaker, and he does a really good training on storytelling. So, can you introduce yourself, your organization, and how long you've been part of rap?
I'm actually surprised you remembered. But yes, that is how we met. I was lovingly voluntold to be part of RAP. So my name is James Hill. I am a disability public speaker with 512 Society. I took about 6 months off and was the executive director of Ethnic Support Council located in Longview, Washington, and now have returned back to my passion, where I focus a lot on self care, self accountability, and self determination. But yes, I have been part of RAP for this is my third year now that I've been part of RAP, and so happy to be on board,
Oh, thank you.
even though I was falling cold.
So I'm gonna move over here to the room where I have Quentin in the room. And Quentin, how did I meet you? You were doing something. And I think I lovingly and told you to also be that you needed to be part of rap as well. And so I think you only been with us for a year and a half or so.
Right around that, yeah. I
Yeah.
feel like the form was halfway already filled out. Just it was like just sign here type situation. But no, I'm glad to be a part of this. My name's Quentin Baker, the founder and executive director of a local nonprofit called Forge. Also the chair for the healthcare committee for the NAACP Spokane branch. And I'm also an active case manager for Spokane Regional Health District, dealing specifically with HIV population here in Spokane County. The year and a half that I've been here has been excellent. I love the advocacy work that I've been able to be a part of. The group meetings, I've learned a lot, especially from the legislators that have came recently. And I do feel like we're doing good work here. And so I'm just excited to see where this thing goes from here. I really love advocacy. And so I'm here for whatever we can do, man.
Thank you. I can't see who else is on there, but I am going to call on Ren. So Ren, I met because she was already a rap member. And so, and I love her story. I love her journey. And so I'm always making sure I'm still waiting on an article from her. Um, so Ren,
Uh, yes, that article, it will be coming soon. Um, Hi. So I am Ren Autry, and I'm the the deputy director and co-founder of Outsiders Inn, which is a Clark County, Washington organization. And we provide shelter and outreach and mail pickup services. And all those services are provided by staff of people who are on their own recovery path from homelessness. Um, I have been a part of RAP since 2017, so maybe 7 years now. I was really blessed to be a steering committee member for 4 years. That was from 2018 to 2021. So it was a really great experience to be able to stay connected to everyone during those pandemic years. But it's amazing to see its continued growth and change, and I'm just grateful to be a part of it for
Thank
sure.
you. And I'm glad you are still part of it. So, since we're down in Southwest Washington, my sister Duana, and Duana, I met her. She was on a lot of Zoom calls. She wasn't a rap member, so I had to like, when are you signing up? So, with love, I said it with love. So, Duana,
Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Duana Rex Johnson, and I'm a Colville tribal member. I'm also a U.S. Navy veteran. I am an active member of 7 local boards here in Southwest Washington, but the 4 top ones that are most dear to my heart are Vancouver Affordable Housing. I'm also the new Vancouver Housing Authority Board Commissioner, their resident commissioner, and I'm on the Bridgeview Board. And I also participate in Southwest Washington BIPOC Legislative Work Group. And sorry, I'm looking down because my list is kind of long. Sorry. I was also a part of VCLI, SWEC, and SAGE, their leadership program, and they're the ones that also told me about RAP too. Um, and I'm part of SAGE's political advisory committee for 2024, and I'm making sure that we are going to be helping fund those candidates that are having housing as one of their main reasons why they're running. I'm going to make sure that their voices are heard there. Um, and this past month, I was invited to Washington State's Labor Council for candidate training for the 18th Legislative District, and yeah, I'm happy to be here. I testified in January 2024. Um, and yeah, for NAIA Action Fund and for HAD. Yeah,
thank you.
that's me.
Thank you, Duana. So, I'm going to call on Kate. So, Kate, I adore Kate, and I watched her development over the years. She was referred by Mr. B, who used to be a steering committee and like was at the beginning when RAP was founded, um, back in 2015. So Kate has been with us for I think a couple of years. So I didn't volunteer her; she signed up, but um, the work she does in her county, and she'll share that with her, is amazing, and her leadership skills are outstanding in the work that she does. So I really applaud her. Kate?
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Kate Rubin. I am the co-executive director and organizing director of Be Seattle, and we're a small housing justice nonprofit focused in Seattle on renters and people experiencing homelessness, and specifically how renter protections can help keep people housed and prevent homelessness from even happening. I have been with RAP for about 2 years. I did meet Mr. B on the first housing and homelessness advocacy day that I went to, which was in January of 2020. And he told me little bit about RAP, but Duaa-Rahemaah was the one who brought me in. She came to one of the educational workshops that we were doing, and really like shared about the power of RAP and how we can all work together with our lived experience and experience as advocates in our role to win tenant protections at a statewide level. And through RAP, I feel like I have really grown my own leadership skills, and also like just really made some like deeply valuable connections with the people who are doing this work, because we all share these same values and we have laughed together and cried together, and learned so much and experienced so much on this journey in the last couple years. I'm really honored to be a part of it.
Thank you, Kate. So now it's Werlena's turn, and so Werlena really didn't have a choice to join RAP because not only is she my cousin, she's my sister. So she's my sister cousin, and I used to watch her when she was young, and she is one of my really close cousins. So she's family, and when I always tell you, like, we forget about those close to us when we're inviting people who are that we want to become RAP members, and so she being family, she didn't have a choice, but lovingly as a family member, she had to join RAP. So, Werlena.
Yes, I was shepherded in. Um, but I think it's important that you mentioned that we forget about the people that are close to us, because this is one of our family values is public service. So this is something that I was already doing, but just in a different platform. So when it all boils down to it, housing always comes up if you're advocating for community and you have experience in some of the things that you're tapping in with. So for me, the last maybe 6 years or so, I've focused more on gang intervention, um, violence prevention, responding and trying to prevent gun violence through the community, and kind of being a community sister, where a community feels as if they can be heard, and housing always comes up. So right now I'm a full-time mother. I've been with RAP maybe about 7 to 8 months or so, because I was experiencing possibly being homeless. And I haven't been in this position in years. So I haven't been on the ground level in years. So for me to be experiencing it, having a career where I was actually helping people. Now I'm like in the trenches, I guess you can say, with community. I'm learning that, wow, I'm like in the office getting myself help, or somewhere asking questions, seeking knowledge, and then there's someone sitting next to me that doesn't know possibly what I may know. So just asking questions and listening and being concerned and noticing that I don't have a choice but to speak up and be a part of this, being that I've experienced homelessness in the past. Anything can happen overnight. Doesn't matter where you're at, and you could possibly be in a position you didn't expect to be in. So if you have the knowledge, it's not ours to keep. So it's important for me to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to go into our questions, and y'all can figure out who wants to go first and who wants to answer. So the first question is, what inspired you to get involved in housing justice? And so I'm going to kind of combine some questions for the sake of time. So the question will be, what inspired you to get involved in housing justice, and why did you choose RAP? So whoever wants to go first.
Well, I didn't get to do my introduction, so
Oh,
I'm going to
sorry.
go first because
Let me introduce. Okay,
That's because
so
everybody
You
knows
just
Chris.
glossed over
okay,
Chris.
right,
I didn't choose rap. Rap chose me.
right.
I think this is a perfect example of that. So, Duaa-Rahemaah, how do we meet?
So this is how we met. So let me tell you about Chris. Chris is my brother from another mother and another father, but he's my brother. So we went. So I heard I was at the Homeless Coalition in Spokane, and I heard Family Promise talk about what they did, and their numbers, their follow ups, everything. The presentation had me just really like, wow, I need to really see what they do. So I called and asked to see if I can come in and learn more about what they do. and to talk to them about R.A.P. And I think me and Michelle and Justice had came down there for to meet, and Chris was there, so Chris took us on a tour, and we kind of kicked it off there, and then we were emailing back and forth and back and forth, and then we invited him to go have food with us, and he voluntarily got loved into our R.A.P family.
And I wouldn't have it any other way. And yes, my name is Chris, and I work at an organization here in Spokane, Washington called Family Promise of Spokane. And we're a direct service organization serving families whose housing is unstable or who are homeless. And our goal is to not just prevent folks from becoming homeless, to rehouse them as quickly as possible, but really to render the current, shelter to pipeline housing model obsolete, right? If the system as it was working, people wouldn't be coming homeless, and they would be getting back into housing, if they needed it much more quickly. So I'm the director of research and development here. And when I met all the folks from R.A.P and they came down and talked, I was like, oh my goodness, people like this do exist here in Spokane. What do I need to get voluntold for so that I can stick around and help? Because for me, housing is the intersectionality. It touches on everything in our lives, whether it's
Yes.
education, whether it is employment, whether it is just the fact that you like to garden and you don't have a place to do it, right? This is such a basic human right and human need. And by working together with the amazing people that are here on this podcast for me, it's really provided me the opportunity and hopefully all of us to further that cause.
Well, thank you. So back to the question. So what inspired? And so we're going to just have some conversation, and anybody can step in. So what inspired you to get involved in housing justice, and how did you choose R.A.P? And I can start. So for me, um, when I decided to go back to school. I wasn't sure what I wanted to go to school for. And first, I started off in business information technology because I wanted to learn about the computers. And I thought I was going to have a corner office with the view of Lake Washington, like my grandpa did, and have somebody, an administrative assistant to do the typing because I didn't know how to really type at the time. But then one of the counselors talked to me about getting into human services from my lived experience of, just the things I learned, on the streets from my lived experiences. Like, she asked me to get into human services, so I started doing human services. And so I did a lot of work study off campus. So I got to work with different populations, like people with disabilities, youth at the Boys and Girls Club, and then I was working at a place called Emergency Operations Center that was in Skyway over here in Seattle, and we had like life skill classes, a food bank, a clothing bank, and everything else. And there was somebody there that was doing an AmeriCorps Vista. So when that ended, I got into AmeriCorps, and I started working with Valley Cities, which does behavioral health, and they had a housing unit. And I got involved in housing and went to my very first meeting for the South King County Homeless Coalition. And that's when it's like, oh my gosh, this is the foundation of everything. People can't do anything without foundation of a house. And so I became a case manager for 10 years before, like Chris said, R.A.P found me because I got a thing from the Alliance, even though I had testified a couple of times for things around criminalization and homelessness and removing those barriers, criminal backgrounds, and things like that. And I got this job here working in housing in a different way from being a case manager. So that's kind of how I became where I'm at now. Because I didn't really know anything about Resident Action Project. They came here in Spokane one year, and they kind of talked, but that was about it. But that's how I became here. So whoever wants to go next, and the question is like, what inspired you to get involved in housing justice, and why did you choose R.A.P, or why did R.A.P choose you?
I'll go next.
Okay, go
So,
ahead, Quentin.
I do have some lived experience with experiencing homelessness. There was a time where I was pulling up to random parks on the north side of Spokane, sleeping in a 1989 Honda Accord. It was definitely not the highlight of my life, I would say, but definitely there was some misfortune and hardship that I had went
Right.
through. And I learned a lot about that, just about homelessness through that process. But I'll say what really lent me towards advocacy was my time as a housing case manager for Catholic Charities, working with individuals that were in fact homeless, and just experiencing the barriers from a not secondhand position where you're working with somebody who's quite capable of maintaining housing if they just had the opportunities and didn't have certain barriers that were preventing them from obtaining housing. And so just kind of getting frustrated with all of the hurdles that we kind of were encountering with those individuals, it made me want to do a little bit more and see if I can't affect policy. And so that's how RAP found me. I'll say that as well. But it was like a perfect timing because I was really looking to give a voice to the voiceless at that particular time, and this was just the perfect avenue. And to actually get involved with like grassroots organization and seeing if we can affect policy on a local level and on a statewide level.
Thank you. Anybody else want to chime in?
I would like
I-
to.
Oh, after you.
Go ahead, Marlena. Go ahead.
No, you asked so politely. I feel like I don't have a choice but to go next. So please go.
Well, it's been my passion to speak for housing disparities that BIPOC and other marginalized individuals face here in Washington State. And that's mainly due to my lived experience as a domestic violence and trafficking survivor. Um, wow, BIPOC and especially Native American populations are at a higher rate than any other um, ethnic group for being unhoused and homeless. Um, and this hits every major urban population here in Washington State. Um, and homelessness is directly puts a target on our backs, especially as far as like MMIW goes, missing and murdered Indigenous women and people. Um, and oftentimes, those individuals that are being trafficked, they get incarcerated at a higher level, which makes it even more. Oh, I'm so sorry because this is like really close to my heart. Um, it makes it even exponentially more hard to house us, especially when we have so many of these disparaging labels put on us um, due to being victimized. And, it's like without this most critical need met, we're going to continue as a people to be targeted and victimized. And so that's why I speak. I speak for those that don't have a voice. Thank you.
Thank you, Delana. Orlena?
Yes. I've personally experienced homelessness. I didn't have to, I don't think, but I feel like I didn't have a choice. Um, I think I'm recognizing with wisdom and then also building community that is trauma based, sometimes generational. Like Duana was just saying, um, personally myself, I mean, I had a stable place. I have family, but once violence and all that comes in, you're in survival. And this is just me speaking personally from my experience. And then also with community members I'm tapping in with. It becomes generational, trauma based. It goes hand in hand with violence. So I think it promotes once you're in those situations. For me, just the environment I was choosing to be in may have possibly put my family at risk, or things I was experiencing out there has you to where you're not thinking clearly, to where you can't even make simple decisions, not having the resources or the right mentorship at that age, being a teenager, where I didn't have people that were effectively communicating with me and listening to understand up until I was a certain age. So it put me in an area where I kind of was like here, there, everywhere, because I felt like people didn't understand. So I resonate with community members that are in similar situations. Um, a place, I mean, home is security, safety. So if you don't feel secure and safe where you're at, even if you have a home with family members, or you feel as if they won't be safe, then I mean, that can definitely directly put a person into homelessness. And then sometimes people don't know what other options there are, or a trust issue where they don't want to communicate with people because it may incriminate the person. Don't feel like being judged. So I just feel like a lot of times I was living in survival mode. Now that I'm able to recognize it, and didn't trust tapping into resources, because um, where I grew up in King County in Seattle. So, I mean, there were always some sort of resources, but possibly not the right messenger. I'll just put that there. So that's just a little bit of something I wanted to share.
Thank you, Relina. Anybody else want to
I,
share?
Yeah, I'll jump in.
yeah. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So really, what inspired me to be involved with RAP and why I chose RAP, really kind of to piggyback on everyone else, RAP kind of chose me. But I was, I experienced homelessness. I experienced housing instability really all of my life. But when I think about homelessness, back in 2016, my then 16-year-old daughter and 1-year-old granddaughter moved from Texas up here to Washington with me. And at the time, I was living in a bachelor's pad. I had a roommate, which was no environment for a 16-year-old and a baby. And so at that point is when I became homeless. We slept at friends. We slept in a vehicle. Sometimes they would sleep in the house. I would sleep in my vehicle out front. And so going through that experience directly, especially with a child, children with you, um, really opened my eyes to what everyone faces. You hear about homelessness, you see homeless people, um, and even those in advocacy, as much heart and love that goes out towards those that are facing uh, being unhoused, when you actually are the one that's going through it, it really puts a different lens on. And so um, that's what connected me with the housing and homelessness days. Um, and thereby, once I started speaking with Duaa-Rahemaah and Ma Caroline, it opened my eyes to there are those that are working as a group that are actually in community working towards the advancement, not only of the advancement of BIPOC, but the advancement of housing, and which is something that's so needed. And so it was that inspiration to be a part of something bigger than me is really why I joined RAP.
Thank you, James. Somebody else, was that Ren or?
Yeah, that was me. Kind of similar to other people. It is what inspired me to get involved in housing justice was my own experience of homelessness. Um, I I was lucky to have a very stable life most of my life, and in the Midwest, I was the Midwest mom. But you know, kids grow up, people move out, things change. I had family who was needing help through hospice, and so I was able to pick up and go help. And so then I I went from Kansas, I went to California, and then found myself after all that, uh, life work. I found myself driving along the coast of California and feeling very, what's next? What's contemplative? But there was a lot of privilege with being inside my vehicle. And as it kind of drew a little bit further out, and I found myself kind of stuck in my grief and what was next, I recognized other people outside of my vehicle in similar spaces, and I was in a place of privilege in my vehicle. But I still struggled with some of the same decisions of like, where I'm going to sleep, where am I going to sleep tonight? Where am I going to be able to park? Am I going to be safe here? And then I found it really difficult to get back into the housing market. Then at that point, you're going from the streets, whether you're in your car or whether you're in your tent to, so can I connect up with work? You just sometimes the appointments that it takes to find enough wellness can be a full-time job in and of itself. And I kind of worked through some of that reconnection into community, like Werlene was saying, that was just recognizing all these parts that had just went by me as a younger person. And then as I got older, all of a sudden I realized, wow, this was really happening. These were not just stories in the newspaper. This is real people that are going through this situation.
Yes.
And it was a challenge to get back to the normal routine and get connected to those resources. And then I was finally able to start getting fueled by the experience and that need to tell my story and to tell it to other people and not be so angry. and and it was like, I found myself in other spaces and rooms like, yeah, I'll go to that meeting. And then I had something to say and I was like, man, I don't know if I can really say that. My own anxiety was taking over with that. And so I saw the flyer of come learn how to tell your story back in 2008, 17. And I was like, I need to learn how to do this. This is housing justice stuff. I feel fueled by it. And so it didn't take me long for R.A.P to find me, but I was grateful to jump into that, into the circle of people who were ready to listen and to understand that this is a similar story, that your story was that you're not alone in this, that there's a lot of people that are going through it in similar but different ways. And that we start seeing how the intersection of, like James said, we need housing, we need affordable housing, we need services that line up to that housing to help us get into it. And I'm grateful that I've been able to use my experience and survive that experience in such a way that I can hopefully help others navigate it a little bit better. So yeah.
Like I was just brought back to memories as when I was a case manager, and it's hard when you're going through some housing issues or utility bills need to be paid, and I'm helping folks making sure they're staying housed, and I'm struggling and not able to get services because I'm working, and so it makes it kind of hard, you know, as the instability and not knowing and how can I find myself help, but I'm doing everything to help somebody else, and it's kind of like why I'm in the position that I'm in. This job I thought was perfect because of being somebody who's been, had to double up with folks who instill instability, the injustice because of the color of my skin or my credit score wasn't high or that I had a voucher, and watching my kids struggle now, and I'm still trying to figure out like, are they gonna have to come back home? Am I have to be broke? Then if this money is for emergency, it's like, what do I do? Because some of my kids are bad investments into like, so just saying, and there's all this stuff, but like why the work that we do is very very important. because it's not just for me and my family or my community. It goes beyond this community, beyond my issues and what's happening in my life. But everybody that's in Washington State that is struggling, I want to, I want for my brothers and sisters what I want for myself. Some stability for me and my family. I want that for y'all too. But back to the question for those who didn't answer it and would like to answer is like, what inspired you to get involved in housing justice, and why did you choose RAP, or why did RAP choose you?
Like to answer.
Okay.
So I am somebody who has always really had a strong sense of justice since like I was a really small child, and housing justice, I think, is like one of the core like connecting issues to so many different types of social justice. Housing justice is racial justice, it's economic justice, it's justice for the LGBTQ community, it's climate justice. All of these issues are intersecting, and ensuring that everyone has a safe, stable home creates a happier, thriving society. And that's the society that I want to live in. That's the society that will enable me to grow old, like from a personal perspective, but also it ensures that everyone I care for will be okay from every demographic. Um, and it's just so important to get this issue solved. And as somebody who came from a pretty stable background and has so many fears for the future, every decision that I've made as an adult has been rooted to whether or not I can afford to stay in my home. And I think that a lot of people are in that position, and that's just like the luckiest of lucky at that point. So when you have any other barriers facing you, when you are taking care of children or other family, or you're being discriminated against in any way, it's just another barrier to stability. And then when Orlena mentioned that, like, yes, services exist for people, but they're sometimes either hard to find, or the person or system that's delivering them is not it doesn't work for you. For me, that means policy change. That means that we don't set up a society where people have to seek these services. It's that's how we function as a whole to care for our community. That it's not services, it's just part of existing. And so that's housing justice, and I feel so deeply rooted in that work. And as somebody who is into policy and feels tiny to take on a statewide policy, RAP has given me space to be in community with the people with the lived experience who really like have the answers as far as what policies need to be put forward. And I can use my voice and my skills, because I'm not necessarily the person who should be the face of the housing justice movement, but I am a strategist, and I am somebody who loves figuring out how we get what we need. And RAP has given me a space to do that with my community, and also to do it on a statewide level, because I'm small and my paid job is in Seattle. And if I'm really great and really lucky, I might be able to protect people who live in Seattle. But RAP gives us a space to protect more people and fight for that.
Thank you, Kate, and all the work you do down there in Seattle. Anybody else before I go on to the next question? Okay. So the next question is, what has been your most, I practiced this word too, so I went tongue twisted. Your most memorable, I got it, yes, moment with RAP, and why? And I will start this one off. So the most memorable moment with rap was when we were down in Portland. Kate and James were there, and I'm gonna tell you why. That's when we put everything aside of us trying to make sure that we were advocating and organizing for everyone else to advocate for us in that moment. We were at a movement building training down in Oregon, and Resident Organizing for Change, which is our sister organizer, part of the Resident Organizing Network down in Oregon, was hosting it. And we were staying at the McGinnis Hotel, which was creepy from the beginning. But one of the doors, so the people, we were there, so the four resident organizing networks were there: RAP, Run from California, Rock, who hosted it in Oregon, and House in Louisiana. And they were new. That was their first time there, right? And one of the doors had it was a book, and it was a racist book. It was a Confederate book, and so it was very uncomfortable, and they wanted to just keep going with the training, and we said no, we need to address this issue, and we as organizers took it to the management and had a conversation with the owners. And over the months, has anybody been back there to see if they actually made the changes to the door?
I think we had one person go back that the changes were made to the door
Right.
and the room.
So we were able to,
I have not seen it personally.
yeah, we go ahead. Next time I'm back down there, we need to go by there. Next time I'm back in Vancouver, we need to go see. But it was like we made that change. We stopped doing what we needed to do and face the issues as advocates and organizer, because it was important for us to be okay, because we're out here making sure everybody else is okay. And I thought that moment was so bold, it was so needed, and it was so inspiring for us to make a change in that moment when it happened. So for me, that was the most memorable moment. Okay, whoever wants to go next.
Oh, go ahead, Kate.
So I wanted to speak to that because that was actually mine too. And I want to say, like, I really looked to the people that were running that training. They were incredible organizers that I learned a lot from.
Right.
But I felt that they didn't respond in an appropriate way. And so for me as a leader, and as somebody who wants to make sure that our community is cared for, it was a real learning experience there to watch somebody that I trusted make what to me was a very clear mistake. And for us as a group to figure out, like, how can we make this better? It felt like they had literally just like handed us the tools, and we had this opportunity to use them in that moment.
Yes.
And it was really powerful about, like, you can have all of the knowledge and still like make a mistake that harms people. And also like looking to trusting the community and the people that you are trying to lead, because they do have the answers. So it was great. And we also had people like, you know, taking us, like our group from our, you know, collective, taking us, walking us around the building and pointing out, like, this is problematic. This is like, you need to understand this, and like really like being vulnerable and sharing a lot of insight in a way that I think like leading with vulnerability is so brave. And so like that is how we build leaders, and just so many leaders stepping forward in that group. It was really incredible to be a part of. And also like the impactful part for me was also seeing the people that I trust make a wrong choice, and seeing like what we do as a community when someone we trust makes the wrong choice. It was really incredible.
Thank you, Kate. James?
And let me just jump in here because y'all stole my event. So, but actually, just to piggyback a little bit on that one, and we had a similar event. Kate, I'm not positive.
Kate
I
wasn't
can't
there
remember
in
if you were
DC.
there in Washington D.C.
No.
But
And
just to give some everyone just kind of a little background, so the it's McMenamins, and if anyone knows anything about McMenamins, they take old buildings, old facilities, and turn them into restaurants or bars. Or and so we were at the
hotels.
Kennedy School, and so each of the rooms had its own theme. And so on this door, I believe it was Big Sur, which
Yes.
was it was a Confederate. Um, it was a book about a Confederate soldier, and the theme of that room was Confederate motivated. And so, that really was an event to see, to be able to see everyone come together at that moment and say, "Hey, hold on, I know we're in this training, but let's take a moment here because something's not being addressed." But we saw a similar event. I don't know if it's a rap thing or what, but anyway, we saw a similar event
In
when we were
DC.
in DC. We were there. We were meeting with Representative Marsha. Um,
Secretary, it's Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, Secretary Marsha Fudge.
Marcha Fudge. Thank you for correction. So we were down there to meet with her, but before that, we were basically kind of doing an advocacy walk, kind of a protest, a very peaceful march around one of the local parks there, and it was not far from the National Apartment Association. And so while we were there, completely separate from us was there was this altercation, and combining what I've heard and what I saw, there was a man that had an interaction. It was a black homeless man that had um, an interaction with a white man that was there just eating his lunch, and the black man, definitely should have been arrested. No, no, no doubt about it. However, he was not mentally, he had a mental illness, and that really wasn't being addressed because what we saw police just surrounded the whole park. There was Secret Service, there was Metro Police, and we thought they were there for us. And there was about 6 or 7 policemen just jumps on top of this black guy and holding him down. And so it was not everyone saw it at the same time, but those who saw it initially, we're doing something. We're doing like these media shots. We're doing all this other stuff, and we stopped. That whole thing just stopped. We're saying no. So there was a whole group of us that really went to support that man, and I honestly feel to this day that if we were not there, that man would have died that day.
And I agree with
It's
you.
so it's great to see, not only are we doing it for the unhoused, we're doing it for disability, we're doing it, but when you actually, it's not just words. We actually put our money where our mouth is. So we saw something, we wanted to stop it and change it. So those were very memorable events for me.
And on that, and let me piggyback on that. So we were going to talk to one of the things we were going to talk to Secretary Fudge about was the criminalization of homelessness, and that's exactly what we seen at that park that day. And so we were able to go talk to her about that when we were there, as well as giving tenants the right to organize in their buildings and different things as well. So yes, that was memorable as well. Next.
I'm I'm gonna hop in here because that's just moved me. As as more of an old timer in this movement that we've been collectively building, I'm I'm so proud of the forward learning that our group has been able to do. I know that in our beginnings, social justice movements, it felt very housing, and then funding, and then, but then we're really I remember our early steering committee days where we were talking about these intersections of challenges and struggle, and are we addressing housing justice if we are ignoring an individual area, and learning what our allyship is can be, and how important that some of us may not understand the complexities of where it's all intersecting, and for us to make sure that we are holding space and that we are also being brave to be vulnerable and be wrong sometimes, like Kate was saying, but then also that we are brave enough to step in and do what we can in those moments to use our allyship in ways that we can be effective in the now, and then be able to use that experience in our advocacy in a more collective and in those forward moments from those moments, because we always have these moments of now and the need of now, and we often feel like, can I help now? And sometimes we can, and sometimes those moments will end up fueling us for the future. But I'm really excited to continue to hear the learning that's happening and the bravery that's happening through vulnerability and through listening to each other, because sometimes we don't see those things in front of our eyes. We've been conditioned in other ways that we just see right past them. And sometimes as leaders, we find ourselves driven by time, the agenda, the budget, and we have to learn how to slow down and listen to all of us, and to that everybody has a valuable input into this collective work. So I'm excited. I know that my some of my most memorable moments were it was back in 2019, and the one of our, I think it was my second maybe housing and homeless advocacy day, and this was before all the masks and all the anxiety around being around so many people, and there was like 600 people on this steps, and we were chanting, and I have a picture of me, pointing up to the people to chant and go back and forth, and it's a powerful reminder of that feeling of collective voice and being able to feel that, and the goosebumps on your arm as it's happening. And sometimes whenever I see that picture of myself leading that chant, it helps me feel better on the days that I don't feel enough, or that maybe my voice isn't heard, that I have to recognize that I'm not alone in this, and that I can, get other people's chanting that way. I can also do it in a smaller space too. So that's my most memorable, but I'm going to just add on to this moment too, to be able to know how our learning in the beginning of this organization and this group has continued to grow and to strengthen through these moments, to be brave to continue this work.
Thank you, Rand. Hey, Duana, I see your hand up.
Thank you, Duaa-Rahemaah. I think one of the most powerful moments for me was in New Orleans, where I first met most of you all, and just totally being heard. I'm used to being the only native at the table, and it was really powerful for me to be able to give the land acknowledgement, and to be able to bring that teaching into this space, that the learning space that we had, because most oftentimes it is left out of the narrative that all of us sitting here today are on stolen lands. Our homes, our indigenous homes, were taken. And to be able to speak to that and remind in such a powerful way with words, necessarily that they weren't in my own language, but I learned a lot about the indigenous population in New Orleans, having done that land acknowledgement, but just to be able to speak to that and be able to keep my relations and my people in the forefront of this movement, that is, yeah, that's what's powerful for me. Thank you.
And the burning of the sage that we done outside, and that whole ceremony right there, that was truth. That was life. So thank you. Look,
I'm
that's
still pretty new to the group, but I
I gotta put my
I want to
glasses on
say my
so I
most
can see.
memorable moment was the first gathering that I attended that you put together here in Kent. I was able because I it was important for me to join because I'm experiencing um some concerns with housing authorities. And the more I speak to community and speak on what's going on with me, and not, I mean, I grew up where you don't tell nobody you have housing, that sort of thing. But I'm learning that so many people are having similar issues and all that. So for me to be able to come in new, um, come in being a leader, because being a leader, you have to learn to ride in the car with a bunch of leaders. So I know how to, when it's my turn, I know how to raise my hand and say, take a left here, and still sit back and let other people lead. So that for me, that was everything. And to be able to be heard, seen, connect, because I mean, once you start telling your story, I mean, there's someone else in the room that may be able to help you, support you, or experiencing the same thing. So for me, coming out of just helping community, and I wanted to touch on that what you brought up earlier, Dora, that while I was working, I'm experiencing issues with I have a child with disability. So I'm going out and I'm helping community, but I have stuff going on with my child. I have housing, and the people aren't I say doing effective communication, because for me that is one of the biggest barriers. Effective communication. People are listening to respond and not to understand. And it's okay to say, okay, I may not be the person to help this family or this person. Let me step to the side, or let me pull in someone else to help. I think everyone's so into hurrying up and doing protocols, but not listening to understand the process might be different depending on what's going on with the other person. So for me to be able to come in raw and uncut, share my story, something that I'm not really comfortable with doing, because I'm a doer for other people. Even when I'm bleeding out, I'm like, and the next table next to the patient being operated on with my chest open too, walking them through it. So that meant everything to me to be able to come in, be transparent, um, keep it real, and then honestly say I need help. So because of that, I feel more empowered to be in community. I've been talking to other people, friends that didn't even know they were experiencing the same things that I'm experiencing with having a voucher. These are working, and I can speak to being a Black woman. um we weren't given the opportunity to have generational stability. I won't say wealth, because that's going to take a while for us to gather that, because we were not set up for that. Our families, I come from a family where we're hard workers. We have work ethics, but we weren't able to stabilize generational stability for the next generation. So I have friends and family that have vouchers, work hard, but still don't make enough money to um, be stable and then put their kids in position. So for us to have a voucher, that's stability. And then to almost lose your voucher because of communication with government entities. So again, the effective listening, or just maybe it's capacity. I'm learning a number of things, but with that being said, I'm also been able to help out friends, family, and community by kind of being nosy. So it's not about being nosy, but being concerned and listening, and then using my skills that I have just from seeking knowledge, being a leader, learning, telling them what words to say. Okay, put this person in, because I've been doing the groundwork for myself, and then community. So again, being able to share what I know. with community has been everything. But I just appreciate you all let me rant on, because to me, to family and friends, sometimes it seems as if it's a rant, but it's actually storytelling. And then being at the right table, the right room, where we're all allies, where we can, tap in and help each other out. So I really appreciate being in space with you all.
Thank you, Nick. Valina. Chris or Quentin, would you like to share?
Yeah, I got two situations, and they're both regarding door knocking and connecting with community members. The first was actually down in New Orleans, and I'm not gonna lie, when you guys had mentioned that we was gonna go door knocking down in New Orleans, I'm like, I'm not from around here. I'm thinking I might not make it home. I'm like, y'all really want to do this? Okay, let's
Yeah,
go.
we were supposed to go down to the ninth ward, but we didn't.
But it turned out to be a wonderful experience. I believe that we were talking about individuals' energy bills and how they were significantly being inflated. But just to see that the community members related with what we were talking about so much because they were so heavily impacted, and just giving those individuals an avenue to be heard, to advocate for themselves. It was gratifying. It was filling in a way because had we have not been there, would they have advocated for themselves? Would they have gotten on that list and had been heard? And then the other one was up in Spokane when we were doing door knocking around rent stabilization. We started as a team, but we broke off into groups, and I was actually by myself, and that was the first time I'd ever door knocked by myself. And so I'm questioning, like, okay, am I going to be effective? How am I going to approach this? But then just kind of working in communities and neighborhoods that I grew up and have experienced, but have seen how it's changed over time. I was dealing with a lot of individuals in the particular neighborhood that I was working with that were of college age, and so they were renting out rooms in houses, and this issue of rent stabilization directly impacted them, and just hearing all of the just feeling the energy that they had behind it, and them being so young and so conscious about it, and then so willing to advocate for themselves, again just providing that outlet for them to step up and be heard. It was again just gratifying, and it was people that I knew, and so just connecting with individuals again, doing the work, advocating, and just giving people the resources that it's needed for them to kind of advocate for themselves. Those are both memorable for me, and I look forward to doing more of that moving forward for sure.
Well, I'm glad you touched on that. Just a pitch. I'm signing folks up now to do door knocking in their area, but also phone banking across the state. So keep that in mind. Except for James.
No, I think that was an awesome memory about the door knocking. I had a similar experience in being told that we were going to go door knocking in the Oakland community when we had gone and done our training down in Oakland, California, and I too had some like wonder what neighborhood is this going to be? How is it going to go across? And we ended up finding some really sweet people, and they were interested in the topics that we were talking about, and we had an excellent opportunity to get with the Asian community there, and having people help us translate. And then in the end they were all like, yeah, and everybody was like, let's do this together. And even though there was this big language barrier, that we were still able to communicate and get on the same page. Exciting stuff.
So in New Orleans, before I call on Chris, um, that was part of the movement building training, and where we went used to be a project, but Hurricane Katrina kind of destroyed that. So the only part that was left of that project was the daycare. They turned it into a daycare, so it was like mixed income housing, like Kate and Nook in Seattle, almost like the Rainer Vistas and the Holly Parks and stuff like that. So it was like that. So there were homeowners and there were renters in that area.
That was a lot of fun. It was a good day.
Okay, Chris.
Definitely had some of the same experiences as Quentin, but if there's more door knocking, I'll be there. I think my most memorable experiences so far with RAP have really surrounded the advocacy days in Olympia. Um, First off, showing up there and there literally being hundreds, and I do mean hundreds
Almost
of
500.
people that
Almost
showed up
500
in
people.
person from all over for that movement and for to support the people that were talking to all of the senators and congresspeople and all of it, and seeing because it's so easy, in our communities and in our smaller spaces to feel like, hey, yeah, there's just five of us on a Zoom call, and we're gonna do this. We're gonna make this difference. And to know that there are all of these groups of 5 or 10 people gathering all over and doing that work, that those voices are not alone. And of course, some of the outcomes of that session were not what we hoped for. And it can be really easy in those moments to be like, for the love of Benji, we've been working on this for so long, and here we are, we're starting back over at the beginning. And instead, the next day, it was, all right, well, guess it's again on the agenda for this year. And it's not going away. We're not going away. It's not stopping. And the collective energy, even with the collective disappointment, the sort of sigh of, well, it didn't happen this time. The feeling that what we are doing has that momentum and has that possibility. Because I want to highlight something that Duana said. This is stolen land. This whole idea of I own land and I'm going to rent this land to somebody, or I'm going to allow somebody to buy this land. This is all fairly recently made up. Uh, it is a system. It is a racist system. It is an oppressive system. It is a classist system. And guess what? If they can make that whole thing up, we can make our own version up and continue towards a better world where maybe that part of it goes away, right? Where that intersectionality of human need for shelter, human need for a life well lived, maybe that goes away. And we do that one step at a time, one vote at a time, one door knock at a time. And sometimes it feels lonely when there's only one of us door knocking on our own, or two of us. How much better does it feel when there's two of you, right? Just knocking on doors together. It feels better. And when there's five of us or more on a Zoom call, it feels better. And the more people that join, know that your voices are heard and know that there are literally hundreds of other people out there.
Thank you. So on to our last question, and I'm gonna have James start first because he has to go. So, if you can change one thing about the House and Justice movement today, what would it be?
So there's two things wrapped in one.
Okay.
Um, the first, well, really, the first thing is I wish there was not a housing justice movement. Um, because if there was not one, that means that everyone would have the housing that they need. But really, it goes to those that are in the movement itself. What I would love to change, and Warlena really shouted it to me when her comment about uh, being on the operating table while assisting someone else. I would love for those that's in this movement to really remember that, and it's cliche, right? You can't fill from an empty cup, but it really is true. If we are not taking care of ourselves in this movement, then we're not going to be able to take care of the next person. And so it's so important for us to remember that as much heart and love and sweat and sometimes blood that goes into this work, don't forget about yourself. Because when you are making for sure that you are getting enough sleep, yeah, we have those sleepless nights, but because of the emotional ups and downs and roller coasters in this movement itself, it's so important to take care of yourself. So my love and support goes to everyone, and um, that's one thing I wish I could change, that people would take better care of themselves.
And that is true, and I totally agree. And people will tell me, know that if you're not feeling good, go take care of yourself. You're gonna be okay. And I learned how to back away from things that take up too much capacity or my time, because I don't want to give up a lot of my time commitment and stuff like that. Because right now I'm trying to live my best life, and part of my best life and my self care, I like traveling. I like doing nothing. I like chilling in my backyard. So I just want to make sure I have time for myself, my family, and whoever I have around me. So thank you.
I'm going to
Absolutely.
jump in. Oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead.
I'm going to jump in because I also have to, I've got a
Go.
hard stop here and
Okay.
I've got to drive off to my next thing. So I think what I would change is the sense of isolation. Uh, Everybody has a different definition, everybody has a different need, and everybody has an individual story. And it can feel uh, really compartmentalized or really siloed. You know, you feel like you are fighting for your story, you're fighting for your neighbor's story or your family's story. And having more exposure and meeting more people breaks that down. And so ending that idea or that feeling of isolation and the solo fight. Um, I think that the other thing that I would change is that we need more time. We need more time as people, as human beings, to do this kind of work. And that time doesn't come from, you know, the world around us. We've got schedules, meetings we got to drive and get to. So we got to end one conversation early just so that we can meet the next one. And I would encourage people to make that time. Say no to those meetings, say no to those presentations. Give yourself the time and space that you need to do to make the future work, to do the work for the future. It's okay in the same way that you got to take care of yourself. It is okay to say no
Very
so
much.
that you can say yes in another space.
You have to like pick and choose your battles, and we got to remember the isolation part. It takes a community to build a community. So thank you.
I think my answer jumps off of theirs really, really well because I was saying that to get more people involved, that, you know, we need many hands to make this work uh, lighter and duplicated and growing, but then not necessarily on the backs of just a few folks. That if each one of us bring one of us, I think that it starts adding that collective strength, because we need to get our message out to a broader set of folks too, beyond just those individuals, beyond the small landlords, into the portfolio holders. So that way, maybe some of those decisions can be driven by our collective message. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity for our stories to continue and to be added to. And so my thing is to get more people involved in this work, so that way we can take care of ourselves and each other and have a stronger collective message.
Thank you. I think Nook and then Quentin.
Okay, just I feel like we're all kind of falling in line with what we're saying. I think I agree. I would like to see scholarships for younger people because there are people that are retiring, moving on, burnt out. So um just more recognition throughout the community with people that are already doing the work but don't even realize they're doing the work and actually bringing them in space. Do they need help with just walking people through things? So if someone needs help with, yeah, can I go to school for this? And learn this and earn this amount of income and kind of walking hand in hand with community that's lived experience where you can actually have some type of stability for yourself, your family, and then kind of pass on the baton where we're in a generation now where they don't everything comes so quickly. You can push a button, you can be a YouTube influencer and that sort of thing, so they don't want to get out there and do it. So just sharing how important this work is, anyone can do it that cares about the community, what just uplifting community, and then also a plan of action for us that are actually doing the work. So when we have to tap out, personally myself, I walked away from my job for a little bit to focus on my family because it got that hard where I couldn't do both. I couldn't sit there any longer and be on a meeting assisting community, even though I still do it for free because that's who I am. But I mean, I had to tap in with my family first. So I would like to see a plan of action for us doing the work. So when we get burnt out, what happens to us? We only have a certain amount of time to be off work for Washington State, which is a blessing. But what else can we do to support us? We're human. We're here for community. So I would like to see that.
Thank you. I know you guys are writing a lot of things in the chat, but we are not on the Zoom, so I don't know what's going on. But I just see a lot of things happening in the chat, so hopefully they'll save it for us. Quentin,
I can
thank you.
read it. Oh, go ahead, Quentin.
I think what I have to say kind of rides perfectly off of that. I would like to see more attention and focus be placed on trying to get youth to engage so we can inspire the next wave of activists. They always say if you want to change the future, it starts with the youth. And so we need to have a heavier representation and heavier footing in bringing these individuals along, whether it's just creating community engagement activities. And it doesn't always have to be during legislative session or anything like that. We just need to get them around, around what we do and be conscious. I will say, like, the youth today are more socially conscious, let's just say, than my generation already. So they're already kind of geared for the information that we have and are really willing to receive it. And so we just have to do better about, in my opinion, we have to do better about meeting them where they are and just kind of shepherding them into roles of activists. And so I'd like to definitely see that.
And I agree with you on that. So we are working with the youth activity boards. So down in Southwest Clark, met with them when I was down there. The one here in Spokane, they're getting a home. So they already reached out to come back. So Pink, who's one of the chairs there, so once they get situated, because they're going under spectrum. And then the Institute for Black Family Justice, the one I just did the podcast there, youth focused over there in Tacoma.
Nice.
So just any kind of way to get in youth. And I think some of our civic engagement this year should really be at the colleges. All right, Duaa. Wait, let's let Kate go first and then you go.
Oh.
Okay, because you're going to read us what's in the chat too. So I'm going to let Kate go and then you go. You'll finish us out. Is that good, Duaa?
Sure. I was just going to piggyback off of what
okay, go ahead.
Both you and Quentin said. So
go ahead.
Just be quick.
Go ahead. Kate will finish us
out.
out.
I am meeting with the same group of people that Duaa-Rahemaah and I met with down here next week, and I will give you guys an update via email on that, the youth movement down here in Southwest Washington.
Thank you. Kate, did you want to speak?
I tell you what, I'm going to step in there and say it was really cool. I'm sorry, Kate. That Duaa had put into the Zoom, the chat.
Yeah, so
here
somebody was going to read the. I thought she was going to read the chat too. I'm
sorry, she was. Is she going to read the chat?
Duaa, that's what you said. She would read the chat. So I told her.
I can read what I wrote. I just put, do not be limited by the grind culture's narrow definition of what rest looks like. And that came from this rest deck box that I had gotten. I love it. I use it every day. But just to continue with that, so much we are forced to move within this colonized construct and its ability to divide marginalized communities and conquer by silencing their voices by being overworked and cost burdened.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you. That's powerful. And that's the rest deck. If you guys haven't got, Quentin, you got a rest deck when we were. Are you using yours?
I've looked at it.
No. Okay. You should donate it to somebody.
Yeah, that last part was what came directly from me. The first part came from the rest deck.
So if anybody wants a rest deck, Quentin got one.
Just gonna nominate. Okay.
He'll send it. So, Duana, do you want to answer the question? If you can change one thing about the house and justice movement today, what would it be? Rest.
First, to rest and just to help dismantle the colonized construct that we live in. You know, it's like we're being silenced by being overworked, and then having all these added fees on top of our housing costs, especially when you're living on a limited income like myself. um, we're oftentimes having to choose between paying the rent, paying the electric bill, or getting our medication. And that's just sickening, and it's, yeah, that's what I would change, is just to, you know, yeah, conquer the colonized construct. And we can only do that with our collective voices.
And by burning everything down and starting over everything. Thank you,
I
Joanna.
agree.
Kate.
Well, I think like most of like the really important things have been covered with bringing people in, especially young people, and making sure that people have the resources that they need to stay engaged and to stay in for this fight because it's a long one. So I'm going to say something that seems a little silly compared to that is I wish that there were a more clear uh visual description of the housing justice movement. I feel like other social justice movements, there is imagery that is already defined. We have, the Black Power fist, and we have the rainbow flag, and these like images that immediately people know what you're talking about when you see it. And housing justice, and I was actually at a training with like a bunch of comms people, doesn't have that yet.
Right.
And so bringing in artists to help us figure out what a vision is that we all recognize, because even the term, like we say housing justice, and we know what, when we say housing, people think of a house, but really like most people don't live in a house. And also like a single family home is not necessarily housing justice. And so even just thinking about like what does housing justice movement look like from a visual perspective that would just be so recognizable that anyone would know that this is housing justice, this is what we're talking about. It is something that I would like to see changed in our movement. So
I think House and
I
Justice kind
think
of looks
bringing
like.
in artists too when we're talking about who can be a part of it. But
Well, I'm glad you kind of brought that up because I'm just thinking like, so we had got this grant from Race Forward around doing art and organizing and advocacy work, and we were trying to figure out what to do like last year, but now we got somebody singing a song, um, or we put a submission out a couple of months last month, which was open for a couple of weeks to either somebody like for a spoken word or like a song that around house and justice. But I do really kind of like think about that, and if you kind of if you look at our logo, our new logo, rap's new logo, how it kind of incorporates not just a house, but if you look at it, it has, which I kind of got some of the ideas from rock's logo, but it does see um Red has it on, but it does show multifamily housing, but it also shows like different. If you look at the fire or whatever you want to call it, look like the different people in Washington State. So I really liked it. And I was like, man, we should have did a painting because it is visual. It's something that can be around just like a song, though. What does it look like? Maybe we can ask them for another grant and kind of figure it out and paint some murals across some billboards and where they can pay or something that we can somebody can let us paint it on their building or something like that, or inside. This is what house and justice looks like. It looks like us. What does it look like? What does it really look like from state to state or city to city or county to county? Something to think about while I will my mind and see how we can get some more funding to do something like that, which Chris is gone because he said there might be some opportunity to do some more of this. So let's keep that in mind. Don't lose that thought, Kate, because now my mind is going like, look. Like, how can we visualize it across the state? You know, and everybody has this housing justice based on their community or their county. So, yeah. For us, we would have the clock tower and Riverfront Park in the back with some other stuff or something that shows, you know. So, yeah. How do we collectively come together and what does it look like? Well, we have came to the end of our time. I want to thank y'all for joining us today. Let's rap about rap. Was exciting. It was our first, and many more to come. You know, God willing. So I really appreciate y'all taking time out of your busy day to be here with us. It won't be the last, though.
Exciting. Thank you for inviting us.
Yes, thanks.
Thank you, Duaa-Rahemaah.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
the invite.
All right, y'all have a good day, and don't forget to rest, Nook. Rest. You can't be Superwoman.
Promise.
Even Wonder Woman, Superwoman, Storm, and all the other superheroes rested.
They
even
did.
even
Yeah, I've been doing
Wolverine.
good with it, so
But
thank
wait
you.
a minute, let's talk
And
about
you all get rest as well.
Wolverine. So he's one of my favorite because he knows how to rejuvenate himself, but he rests when he rejuvenates. So just think of Wolverine. He was powerful. He was bad, right? But he also took time to rest so he can heal, both
That's true.
inside and out. So keep that in mind, y'all. I love you, and
Keep your cups
Love
full.
you
thank
too.
you.
Bye, everyone. Have
See
a
you
great
later. Have
day.
a good day.
You too. Bye bye.